In this video, I'll quickly go over my thoughts about the Glorious Pandas and compare the new G-Lube with Krytox 205G0. Let's talk about the Glorious Pandas first. I won't be going into detail about these switches because there are already some great videos that you can watch, but here are my quick thoughts. If you're not looking to make your own yoke holy pandas or looking to spend a premium on drop holy pandas, then the Glorious Pandas are a great option. They feel basically the same to me. The packaging is great, and the sound is pretty nice other than the issue with the springs. Lubing did help with the spring noise, but I found that both swing swapping and lubing helped the most. In this upcoming sound test, on one Glorious Panda, I used G-Lube to lube the housing, spring, and stem, but not the stem legs, and on the other switch, I used Krytox to lube the same parts. One thing I noticed when I was holding a Glorious stem and a Halo Clear stem between my fingers is that the Glorious stem feels a bit lighter. I don't have a scale sensitive enough to measure difference, but yeah, for some reason the Halo Clear stem just feels a bit heavier. I'm not sure if or how that affects anything. Shifting gears over to the G-Lube now. For $9.99, you get 10 grams of it. So that means in terms of just price per gram or milliliter, that makes it the most cost-efficient lubricant around. 5 milliliters of 205G0 will cost you around $12. The G-Lube comes securely wrapped in plastic, which ensures that the lube won't leak out. When I unwrapped it, however, some of the lube got into my fingers, so that's something to keep in mind if you don't want to unintentionally spread it around. On top here, we see that it says G-Lube, Premium Switch, and Stabilizer Lubricant. Since it's advertised as both a lubricant for switches and stabilizers, I'll be comparing it against Krytox 205G0, which is a common lube used for both of these purposes. Glorious does not disclose exactly what the G-Lube is made of, and because I don't have any fancy machinery or anything, we'll just be going by look and feel. In this shot here, it looks like the G-Lube wets the paper faster than the Krytox. Over a few minutes, the Krytox spot does get darker, but never as dark as the G-Lube. Maybe this can give some idea of the blend of the G-Lube versus Krytox 205G0, but I personally don't really know what to conclude from this. Looking at the lubricants on a brush, Krytox looks to be more white than the G-Lube. The G-Lube seems to be more cloudy. Also, from scooping these out of the jar, the Krytox felt more fluid, and you can kind of tell by looking at the shape of the lube on the brush. For the next test, I placed some Krytox and G-Lube on the paper and felt it with my fingers. I don't recommend doing this since Krytox is industrial grade lubricant and is difficult to clean. Overall, the Krytox 205G0 felt smoother. It was a bit easier to glide my fingers on the paper. There's a bit more resistance with the G-Lube. Let's do some switch sound tests. I'll first play the sound test with the Glorious Pandas with these two lubricants applied, and then I'll move over to Garon Yellows with Milky Tops for a linear switch test. With the Pandas, I did not lube the stem legs or the leaves, but with the Garon Yellows, I lubed both the stem legs and the leaf. Lastly, let's do a stabilizer sound test. In this test, I have see-through stabilizers from the first batch. I'll be using the same lubricant for all parts of the stabilizers, so the plastic housing and the wires. I sadly don't have a keyboard to do this test on, just a PCB, so don't focus on the actual sound, focus on the differences in sound. Here are my final thoughts. The Glorious Pandas are a great switch. However, if you're particular about your sounds, I would replace the stock springs. It'll still be cheaper than building a yoke Holy Panda or buying a drop Holy Panda. As for the G-Lube, that's a different story. On one hand, it's much cheaper than 205G0, but I much prefer the Krytox lubricant over the G-Lube. 205G0 resulted in a nicer sound to my ears for both switches and stabilizers, and I found that it made switches a bit smoother. If you were only going to be building one or two keyboards, then the Krytox is a better choice because 3 milliliters of it is about the same price as the G-Lube, and I find it to be the better lubricant. If you're going to be building a bunch of keyboards, one purchase of the G-Lube can lube a lot of keyboards, but if you're going to be building that many keyboards, that means you're pretty serious about this hobby, and it would be a big missed opportunity if you chose to use G-Lube over Krytox. Therefore, I can't really recommend the G-Lube. That's it for me today. Please like the video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to stay updated on my future content. Until next time.